Hello Vogue, this is Naomi Smalls, and I am going to show you how I turn into a full glamazon creature ready for the stage. So I'll be using my cleanser. I really like this one because there's vitamin C in it. It's really important for me to take care of my skin because I want my skin to look as smooth as it appears when it's all face-tuned and photoshopped and posted to the gram. I'm going to use my liquid chemical exfoliant. This handy dandy tool by Foreo, the UFO 2, I'm obsessed with. It comes with all these like singular little masks. You actually have to connect your phone to the UFO. So I've got my mask loaded. I've got my barcode ready. So now I can scan the barcode. And from here I can go in and into our chest since it's showing. So I'm gonna use some of the CO Energy Serum. This has been in the refrigerator, so it's nice and cold. I just really want to be as tight and lifted as possible. It's really important to wear a wig cap that is as close to your skin color as you can get. If this was not for Vogue, I'd have like the wig caps that have a bunch of holes and shreds and adhesive attached to it, which this is gonna have very soon. So I'm going to comb my edges down and get my alcohol ready to dry out these sideburns. Because when you're applying that Elmer's glue stick, it's not gonna necessarily adhere to all this skincare. This is probably every drag queen's #1 tool, the Elmer's glue stick. And the purple one is super important because you can see when it's dry, that purple tint goes away. Drag is like some hardcore punk rock shit, and it really puts your body through hell, to be honest. But it's kind of all worth it when you step on stage and people like cheer for you, you know, you're just like, oh, it's worth it. So today, I'm gonna kind of go back to my roots. I am obsessed with like stage makeup. I'm obsessed with Bratz dolls, I'm obsessed with Raven, and that requires like a lot more makeup than Davis dressed as Naomi. So the contacts, I think, just add that extra oomph. And when I'm in drag, I do like to have it be almost like a mask, and I don't really want people to know what I'm thinking. And eyes are a dead giveaway. So goodbye, Davis, and welcome, Naomi. I landed on Naomi Smalls because it's like based off of two people who are just really good at what they do. No one can come for them. And I have always had a gravitation to that unapologetic attitude. Like, you cannot come for Naomi Campbell, and I wish that you would, because she would check you right in her place. Like, no one does it better than her. So I used to only wear like blonde and blue eyes, and because I wanted to be the doll, I wanted to be Barbie. Maybe Barbie's not made in every single color and every single fashion, but bitch, I'll be the black Barbie that I've always wanted to be. Okay, so my next step to like really set this glue in, I learned this tip from Kim Chi. I've actually never seen a tutorial of anyone using it, so I wanna make sure I credit the doll. She takes a little bit of water on her finger, and she just paints on top of the glued area. And this really helps everything lay flat. Now it's the time, it's the moment of truth. We're gonna give ourselves that instant facelift. We're gonna hit 2 points gotta spray that alcohol. You gotta dry it out. If you want that tape to stick, you need to dry it out. It's a smaller version of the tape that I use to tuck with, and that tape is actually used for boating leaks. It's a waterproof vinyl tape. It's really, really durable. I like to cut just that tip off because my finger touched it, you know? Make sure you like smooth that tape out and really press it into your skin. I look crazy, but trust me, you don't want that dent that you can get when you pull. So I'm just gonna adhere it to the back of my wig cap. So that we're gonna pull and it'll cross. You'll have like 2 X's in the back of your head. Remember, always as symmetrical as possible. The goal here is to get a headache, to be honest. A lot of things with drag, you don't know if it's working unless it hurts. To make sure the tapes don't slide, I like to use another wig cap. We are finally ready to actually put some damn makeup on. The brows are so important to me. If I'm gonna be using my natural brows, which is 99.9% of the time, I have to make sure they are symmetrical. I'm really obsessed with the Anastasia dip brow, but to get it kind of like moistened up, I did add some eye drops to it. I've been using the MAC Studio Finish Concealer since I think I was like in 10th grade when I started wearing makeup. So with the concealer brush, we're gonna go right underneath the brow and just kind of like sharpen it up. So you can see that when shaping that brow, I am kind of following that face tape and the way it's pulling. For foundation, since I am going to be using the foundation on top to carve out, I like MAC Full Coverage. It's just softer, I think, if you carve the top of your brow with your foundation. That's it for brows for now. I'm gonna take my foundation and cover up all that hair that we just blocked away. I like to go in the direction that I applied the glue, comb down the hair, so that way we're not disrupting or lifting anything. And this is, as you can see, a really, really, really full coverage foundation. I'm gonna block off my mustache area because that does tend to grow back pretty fast. I'm gonna be using the Kimchi Chic Beauty, the Most Concealer in orange. Just gonna take a little bit of powder. Now that that's all powdered down, time to brighten her back up. I'm going to be using MAC, the Ride or Die, 2 to 3 shades lighter than my foundation. And I don't like to apply too much of this because I am gonna blend it out, and I use another concealer, but I like to have this kind of like as a base. I've made it a standard that all my beauty blenders I use for lighter colors are just always the black blender because it's just easier to tell. So we're gonna take that same highlight foundation, the cream highlight, take our little concealer brush that I used for sharpening up my brows. Like if I had to do my whole face with this, I probably could. So we're gonna go down and kind of like connecting into that forehead highlight, but not too much, or else it just looks like out of place. Also, like something that is such an eyesore in drag, along with the face tapes or the unblended brow highlight, is a crooked nose. So like, make sure your nose is like as symmetrical as you possibly can. With every cream that we put down, we have to blend it. We're gonna do a little bit of white just at the tip. And this is like literally a product of Raven. We would not have this nose highlight. We would not have this way of doing drag makeup if it was not for her. So shout out to the OG Bradstall. Shout out to the queen killing it, painting the drag queen of all time, RuPaul. And this is supposed to look like where your nose would start, I guess, like the highest point of your nose. And this is the Kevin Aquan Skin Enhancer, but it's this really nice and creamy texture. A little goes a long way. I do use my hands for this. Really important to keep that differentiation of your foundation and your nose highlight though. You don't want to drag it too much in there. Another full coverage shade. There was a bit there when I was like so obsessed with being in the sun that this used to be my foundation. I've always had a fascination with makeup. I think that my fascination though really started, I remember seeing the John Galliano for Dior, I think it was Ready to Wear 2008 collection, where the models were these like Barbarella, like big hair. And I think that seeing that like really fascinated me with makeup. That was just like, oh wow, like that, she looks out of this world, but not like an alien, like a glamorous alien. Like she doesn't exist, she's a doll. And that's kind of like what I always want to look like when I'm in makeup. So I'm gonna be going with a darker contour. I'm using the Makeup Forever Ultra HD contour stick. This is always the darkest color I'll use underneath my nose though. I remember having to get ready like in an hour. Anything like that really kills me on Drag Race. I remember having a full-on temper tantrum one time because it was like the final episode and this girl, she was rushing me. She's like, Naomi, you only have 10 minutes to get ready. Rue is waiting. And I literally had probably this amount of foundation on. And I just yelled back at her. I was like, okay, then you do it. I have a story about this specific powder container that I always travel with. I accidentally like poured out all my powder onto the countertop, and Chi Chi DeVane, she was getting ready like 2 stations next to me, and she saw it, and I was so wasteful. I was like, I guess I have to throw it away and open a new one. She was like, girl, you ain't gonna waste that powder. Not on my watch. But she wiped all the powder into this container, and now I use this container like everywhere I go. But I like to use a bunch of different powders to make the perfect one. My goal with drag is to have it be as unattainable as possible. And there's something about mixing in a bunch of powders. I know everybody can do that, but it just makes me feel special. I need for this area to be as smooth as humanly possible. So now we can go in with our beauty blender. Okay, so stretch out those eyes. Just trying your hardest not to get it in your waterline, but to make sure it's all set Something that's, I think, really important is I see on a lot of drag queens or a lot of people wearing a lot of makeup, right in that nostril. I wanna make sure to get that. After I use the Beauty Blender one to like set underneath the skin, this one's a little bit more forgiving, but also just like blasts more powder onto your face. So here we go. So now it's time for the powder highlight. So this is the same shade as my cream highlight, and this is Shivering White, a must for drag makeup. I'm gonna go in with my powder brush underneath my eyes just to like brighten that up. I've learned with the Studio Fix powder, I kind of have to like paint it on when it comes to my nose. I can't be like pressing it in like I do with underneath my eyes. I like to take like an angled puffy brush with that same Studio Fix powder and kind of just blend into the eyebrows, blend into the forehead, going up. So that way when people look at you, it's not like nose highlight, it like blends into everything else. This is my nose highlight brush specifically. I only use it for this. Just a tiny bit of white. I'm going back in with like another handy dandy Studio Fix powder. This is a little darker, and I'm all about a complexion moment with drag. I wasn't always that way, but I like dimension, I like depth. And I like working from lighter to darker. And this is actually the same shade as my foundation, but in powder form, pressed powder form. Now I'm gonna go in with the same exact powder, but build with a denser, smaller brush. This is like the color that's like on the outer edge of what I just put down, so it can be a little heavier. When you think about it, I've just pretty much put on a whole another layer of foundation. So now it's time for some actual legit contour, not just foundation. I'm gonna be using Saddle by Anastasia Beverly Hills. I think that this is like a great medium contour color. And I remember going like on carpool in high school with the girls who had to do their makeup in the car. And I just remember being fascinated, but also super annoyed because every girl like screams when they're doing their mascara in the car. I'm gonna go back in with that smaller brush and Saddle and use it on the edges. And now, this is Mahogany from Anastasia. One more round of powder contour, small brush. So now that we have our contour down on our face, I'm gonna go in with some Huda Beauty. Is this the banana? This is Blondie. Try and just like offset any chance of seeing any of that like yellow line cut. I kind of like to blend that out while I cook. Just think it's important, even though it's not going to be like a permanent thing. Kim brought me on as the first KCCB collab. I'm happy. Never thought I'd be able to see my name and face on a makeup product, and I owe that all to Kim. So you can kind of see the, you can actually really see the warmth being added back into my face. I just kind of transform into a little doll, I think, when the blush comes in. And And I do like to go in with a little warmer. Orangey, peachy. I'm pretty sure that this is literally, the blush trio is called Peachy Love. Brush up all this excess cooking powder. Kind of just make sure I like how everything's sitting. Setting spray. Makeup is not a game to me. It's not something that I choose to like wear to have fun. Makeup for me is like how I make my money and how I express my art, you know? I'm gonna go in and redefine these eyebrows. You do lose a little bit of definition with your brows. And I wanna make sure that they pop in. I'm gonna take a little bit of white and we can go right underneath that brow just to help create the illusion of an arch, even though my brows really have like legit no arch. I feel like the very first thing you would see when you look at me is that teeny bit of white. So I'm going to now set what I just did underneath my brows with that same Studio Fix powder. It will not catch me wearing makeup either in drag or out of drag without the Glossier Boy Brow. I'm gonna take this. And I'm gonna go in with Savannah, the same color that I was contouring the sides of my nose with. And I like to use this in my crease to start. It took me a long time to learn how to do eyeshadow, and I still get really, really stressed out about it. So I'm gonna go in with Mixed. Just a little darker of a shade. And kind of define that crease. Blending in circular motions up. I think someone who inspires me to do better though when it comes to makeup is Layla McQueen. I'll say that. She's a drag queen who is just the most precise bitch in the game. As corny as it sounds to say out loud, confidence really is your best accessory. So if you, whatever makes you feel like the most confident, hone in on it and own it and customize it to you, because that's what people are gonna be super, super, super impressed with, seeing something that nobody else has. I'm gonna go in and really like kind of pop that crease, this faux crease I'm creating. That same shade Mixed. And this will be the darkest color. I don't want to stress this enough. This will be the darkest color on the inside of my eye. And I do get nervous every single time I'm doing my makeup or every single time I'm in drag. And I said this a million times, but if I'm not nervous, I don't think I'm doing it right. So now that I've got like my 80 shades of brown down on my eyes, we're gonna go in with the most concealer in white. I like to just put a little bit out on my skin. So now it's time to paint in this crease that sits like a couple centimeters higher than my actual crease, but since I have the hooded eyes, it is a must. And I like to follow that, like, you see where that like eye wrinkle is? I'm a sucker for a precise crease. Get into my bottom shadow. Firm believer in using the same shadows on top, on bottom that I did on top, because cohesion. I have been using the same liner, you guessed it, since I was 18. And I actually never used to use this for my eyes when I was 18. I was using it for those fake moles. So I like to have my eyeliner kind of go more straight out, enough really just to like hide that lash band. The best liquid liner in the game. So now we're gonna take that same brush that we like kind of like blend it underneath the brow with. We're gonna blend just that white out. And this is kind of what I was talking about, like with the whole like full crease and feeling like I'm wearing a ton of makeup. Like this is a way to get that natural look without having to be dedicated to like a full on cut crease. Use my Studio Fix Shivering White since there is no brighter white. I'm gonna fade all this white into the lightest shade of that nose contour. So we're gonna go back in with Savannah and really like lock this eye in. I'm gonna start in the beginning, the middle, just to kind of give that crease a little bit of tint. This really follows the shadow placement that we put down before adding any crease. So now you can really see the eye kind of coming into shape. And lashes are for sure like they come into play as like my biggest pet peeve in drag makeup. Just want to make sure that lash band is nice and clean. And I'm using probably not doctor recommended, probably not super influencer recommended, but this bonding glue. I only really wear velour lashes. So because the eyelashes are not sitting right on my lash, like my natural lash line, I have to go in with my liquid liner and kind of just like fill in any gaps of lid that's gonna be shown. And then I'm gonna go in and kind of just blend my natural lash with that artificial lash. I'm a sucker for bottom lashes. I think bottom lashes is kind of like a huge thing that people know me for. So I'm really into these velour faux mink lashes because you still get that like real hair effect. These are like the bottom lashes that I use. I have the cutest pencil sharpener in the entire world. I like to do the darker corners. Chestnut by MAC. No nude lip for me would be complete without the Sephora 26 liquid lipstick. Got my NARS Raw Seduction lipstick. The nude is lip, the eye is nude, the face is nude. Everything has been oxidizing, everything's been sitting on my face, and I just want to kind of make sure everything's cleaned up. I'm going to go and just like touch everything up. Naomi, she loves a wig moment, so we're gonna put on a wig. This handy dandy vinyl tape comes back into play for me. This is the same tape that I taped my face up with, just a larger version. So I've got these really handy tapes and I lay them down in the center mainly, because that's like the problem area. So I've got my 3 pieces of tape down. Hello, it's me. Yeah, I'm obsessed. I always kind of get like nervous with this because a bad lace front application is just really ugly to look at. I haven't mastered the whole got to be gluing down wig technique yet, but I am a huge fan of Krylon mastics. Nothing worse than a levitating sideburn. Especially when a girl is like really trying to be the doll and stand in front of a fan machine and all you see is just like this flap of lace front moving in the wind. I actually have this advice for anyone who's getting into a custom hairline. Get it done in a color that you think that you look the most you in. Because it's gonna like further play into that growing from my scalp illusion. Drag is so personal, and like the things that you see in the mirror, not everyone else sees, and like unfortunately a lot of detail can be lost when you're working on yourself so closely. Clean lace is just always going to be a little lighter than your own skin tone. I like to just go in and apply that Studio Fix in my foundation shade over the lace just to kind of help blend. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my lip gloss now. It's like my last step with the makeup. And then I like to go in with like a little glittery lip gloss moment on the on the inside. All right, so now that we're dressed and ready to go to the party, so I use some argan oil, just run that through. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm in full heels now. I don't know if I can even raise my foot that high, but we're in a heel. You guys can't see my waist. Gotta get the full look. I'm gonna be using some body glow for that full illusion. I'm using my Patrick Ta A Moment in bronze. And I honestly feel like I chose this look based around doing this for the gloves because I love an opera length glove. Look at that. Just a girl ready to like pinch an hors d'oeuvre with a toothpick. Last but not least, my final step. I'm going to be using my favorite perfume of the moment. I'm using the KKW Mother's Day collection. All right, guys. You got the full look, you got the full glam. I hope you liked it. I am fully ready to go and steal your man. Naomi Smalls out.